Dramatic footage of the collapse of a 7-story building in India. An amateur video captures the terrifying moments as the block simply falls to the ground in a suburb in Mumbai. Scenes of panic as nearby residents flee the scene. Several people are feared trapped under the debris. The building was rendered unsafe and uninhabitable by the local council 7 years ago. Yet despite several eviction and demolition notices, 2 families continue to live in the condemned block.
There are so many people who will stop living due to natural disaster, and mining industry work at high in searching and rescue mission and any type of perilous workplace. Natural disaster kill an average of 60,000 people per year and responsible for 0.1% of global deaths according to data. Some recent natural disaster in India and also in some countries in which many innocent people are stopped their living only because of a lack of technology, lack of carefulness and lack of responsibility. In India, Tamil Nadu floods. The flood was caused by heavy rainfall that started on November 1, 2021. It killed 41 people and over 11,000 people were displaced due to the incessant rainfall. S.W.A.R.M Hurricane Ida hit the U.S. East Coast in August during the rainy season and was recorded to be the strongest hurricane and hit the continental U.S. The storm killed at least 45 people from Maryland to New York and also left vital infrastructure damage. More than 1 million homes were left out without power in Mississippi. New Orleans was plugged into complete blackout.
People not only left their life for natural disaster but also in many risks like search and mining industry. At mining industry, mining ventilation is a significant safety concern for many miners. Poor ventilation inside the subsurface mine can cause exposure to harmful gases, heat and dust, which can cause illness and injury and death. Gases in the mine can poison the worker or displace the oxygen in the mine, causing asphyxiation, lung damage, hearing damage, stress or fatigue. Radioactive material, lifting injuries, etc. are risks to a worker in the mining industry. There are some incidents in which many people lose their life.
There is another risky work for humans in ocean mining. There are currently 3 main types of deep sea minerals deposit of interest to industry and governments. The first one is polymetallic nodules, which are potato-sized metal nodules found on the abyssal plain from 4,000 meter to 6,000 meter deep. These nodules are rich in manganese, nickel, cobalt, copper, lithium, molybdenum, iron and rare earth elements. The second one is seafloor massive sulfides, deposits which are found beneath deep sea hydrothermal vents along the 67,000 km of volcanically active mid-ocean rights and back arc basins between 1,500 meter to 5,000 meter deep. These contain high-grade copper, gold, silver, zinc and other traces of metal. The third one is cobalt-rich ferromanganese crust, which are found on summits and flanks of sea mounts at 400 meter to 4,000 meter depth. But here's the problem. Deep ocean where mining is processed constitutes the largest and least understood biological habitat on Earth. It's an Alice in Wonderland, worlds of extreme, extraordinary adaptation, bizarre organisms, beauty and mystery. The region is characterized by darkness, which is infused with sparkling bioluminescence, extreme pressure, cold temperature, high biodiversity, perhaps millions of species most yet to be identified, slow growth and reproductive rates at high sensitivity to disturbance.
And another life-threatening challenge for humans is planetary exploration. A total of 18 people have lost their lives either while in space or in preparation for a space mission in 4 separate incidents. Given the risks involved in spaceflight, this number is surprisingly low. The two worst disasters both involved NASA Space Shuttle. On 28 January 1986, the Challenger space shuttle blew up 73 seconds after takeoff, owing to a failure on a sealant ring that allowed hot gas from the boosters used to lift the craft in the first 2 minutes of flight to hit the huge main external tanks containing hydrogen-oxygen fuel. All 7 crew members died, including Krista McLaugh, a teacher from New Hampshire, selected on a special NASA program to bring civilians into space. The Challenger disaster remains perhaps the most notorious in the history of spaceflight owing to the number of people, many of them school children, who saw it live on TV.
Let's go to Tamil Nadu. 1st November 2021. There was a family of 3 members, a man, women and their daughter. They lives in a small village called Chengalpattu. One day, a heavy spell of rain badly hit that village, and in the meantime, the lady fell sick. There was no way to treat her, even though the rescue team didn't come up on time, due to which that family lost her. The daughter and the old man had to live with the rescue team without her dead body. There are many stories like this, and we don't want these kind of stories. First of all, we have 3 statements which can be considered as similar as for our project is considered, and they are: first, flood of Tamil Nadu; second, cyclone Taute; and third is Germany cry.
First of all, what are the problems we have to solve? And those problems are: first, as rescue operations are not easy to perform, hence we might think about using robots for rescuing. After disaster strike, building collapse, fire rakes, air and water becoming contaminated, these emergency areas end up as dangerous and inaccessible to humans, often for weeks and months. Sometimes, victims are trapped in unreachable areas while needing urgent medical care such as blood transfusion and medicine. In these situations, robots are becoming increasingly important responders, joining search and rescue team in their mission. Besides being able to traverse contaminated and dangerous areas, these robots bring a different set of skill to disaster recovery sites. They can work under the clock without getting tired. They are excellent at repetitive movements, and they are much easier to repair them than an injured human. See, some of the robots which are made to do this task are: first, the headless cheetah. Inspired by the fastest land animal on earth, these cheetah robots aim to help disaster recovery teams locate victims, remove debris, and disassemble some structures. Second, Centauro, a half human, half horse. Scientists at the Italian Institute of Technology, that is IIT, admit that a robust disaster recovery robots need more than a simple human form. A creature with 4 legs, rolling hooves, and anthropomorphic upper body would do better. The result is Centauro, which has the greater degree of freedom and stability than typical quadruped robots. That means it can be more mobile and agile in disaster settings. Centauro can perform some tasks with his hand also, like humans, such as manipulating tools and doors, executing some impressive karate moves. Third, the unnamed robot that follows your gaze. Built by New York University Tendon School of Engineering, this little quadcopter doesn't yet have a name but already has a reputation. It's aimed to autonomously inspect the worst type of anthropogenic disasters such as damaged nuclear reactor and assess the situation.
Jharia coalfield in East India is spread over 450 square kilometers. Most of it is coking coal, which is used to make steel. Jharia's first coal mine fire was detected in 1916 here at Powda. Only 20 meters below places right next to Jharia town, coal mine fires are burning at up to 700 degrees centigrade. When exposed to air, coal starts to release heat. When the heat reaches burning point, the coal dust catches fire. Underground fires can burn for years, even decades, without showing any signs of their existence on the surface. Eventually, the ground above the fire subsides, taking everything with it. Firefighters are now digging the burning coal out from under the uprooted tracks. It's not easy because there are mines underneath full of smoldering coal. One false step and both man and machine could vanish.
A man named Madhav Soren who worked in a coal field. On an unfortunate day, he lost his life due to underground coal fire. After his death, his child, who was a school student, was forced to leave the school and worked in a dhaba with his mother. Today, that boy remembers his school time and often say that those times were his golden time. To save Madhav's life, we need a simple technology which will measure different gas levels and state whether the location is safe to go or not, and same can be done with gutter too. We completely agree with the fact that all safety equipment is not won by the workers or not provided by the contractors, but with a device which can state whether an unwanted thing is there or not in a mine, help us to a great extent to save many lives.
Let's move on to Australia now, where authorities have issued an emergency warning in the country's fourth largest city as a fierce fire fueled by strong winds ripped through about 100 hectares of land and plumes of smoke covered the suburbs.
And the last problem example was forest fire. Forest fire is necessary but in a controlled manner. But when this forest fire get out of control, then it causes many destructions. An example of forest fire is the bushfire of Australia, where many animals died. The problem which we people facing are, it caused the death of many animals, which can be prevented through controlling the fires. So to control these fires, we have to monitor fire and take action accordingly, and this can be done through putting satellites and space cameras to use. The technology called DESIS or DLR Earth Seeing Image Spectrometer can be used to monitor brush fires from orbit, providing the firefighters with mapping information that research has compared to the Bureau of Meteorology rainfall data in its level of details.
Machine learning for targeted disaster relief management. In case of any disaster, the first step is to formulate a critical response team to help those who are in distress. Before the team goes into action, it is important to analyze and assess the extent of damage and to ensure that the right aid goes first to those who need it the most. AI techniques such as image recognition, classification can also be quite helpful in assessing the damage, as they can analyze and absorb the images from the satellites. They can immediately and efficiently filter these images. AI can identify objects and features such as damaged buildings, flooding, and blocked roads from these images. They can also identify temporary settlements which may indicate the people are homeless, and so the first care could be directed towards them. Artificial intelligence and machine learning tools can also aggregate and crunch data from multiple resources such as crowded source mapping materials and Google Maps. Machine learning approaches then combine all this data together, remove unreliable data, and identify informating sources to generate heat maps. These heat maps can also identify areas in need of urgent assistance and direct relief efforts to those areas. Heat maps are also helpful for government and other humanitarian agencies in deciding where to conduct the aerial assessments. Digital Crew provides space imagery and geospatial content. Their open data program is a special program for disaster response. The software learns how to recognize buildings on satellite photos by learning from the ground. Digital Crew releases pre and post event imagery for the following. The Nepal earthquake in 2015 rescued global and academic science from the ORCID project used machine learning to carry out rescue activities. Predictive analytics for proactive disaster management. Machine learning and other data science approaches are not limited to assisting the on-ground relief teams or assisting only after the actual emergency. Machine learning approaches such as predictive analytics and can also analyze past events to identify and extract patterns and populations vulnerable to natural calamities. A large number of supervised and unsupervised learning approaches are used to identify at-risk areas and improve prediction for future events. For instance, clustering algorithms can classify disaster data on basis of severity. They can identify and segregate climatic patterns which may cause local storms with the cloud conditions which may lead to widespread cyclone. Predictive machine learning models can also help officials distribute supplies to where people are going rather than where they were analyzing real-time behavior and movement of people. In addition, predictive analytics techniques can also provide insight for understanding the economic and human impact of natural calamities. Artificial neural networks take in information such as region, country, and natural disaster type to predict the potential monetary impact of natural disaster. Thanks to the multiple benefits of AI, government agencies and NGOs can start utilizing machine learning to deal with disasters. As AI and allied fields like robots further develop and expand, we may see a fleet of drone services equipped with sophisticated machine learning. These advanced drones could expedite access to real-time information at disaster sites using video caption capabilities and also deliver lightweight physical goods to hard-to-reach areas. As with every progressing technology, AI will also build on its existing capabilities. It has the potential to eliminate outstages before they are detected and give disaster response leaders an informed, clear picture of disaster area, ultimately saving lives. Hence, we are already moving towards AI and software for our disaster management. So till now, we discussed the problem and its various alternative solutions. But on what basis should we actually consider the proper solution? Government, companies, and aid organizations are all working to keep this tragic death as low as possible. One tool they have turned to for help in recent years is search and rescue robots. Robots and drones provide numerous benefits for disaster response. They can often fit into places humans can. They can operate in environments humans can. They can operate continuously without sleep. They can even outperform humans in certain tasks, and most importantly, they are replaceable. Robots can be sent to places which are too dangerous for human rescue workers, which is often needed in disaster areas.
To solve this problem, we need something which is fast and reactive but also simple and flexible to change according to the situation. It also needs to be low cost and better than the existing solutions. When looking for a solution which involves very little human interaction, it's a very good strategy to see if nature has got a way to solve it. Luckily in our case, nature has already solved it with the help of swarms. So you might ask what swarms are? Well, swarms are basically large group of animals, birds, insects or even fishes. These animals are not so smart by themselves, but as a group they can do things that we human cannot. Here is a video of swarm of birds in a specific flight of these starlings. Notice how they form complex patterns with no group members actually knowing what they are doing as a whole. Now we understand how swarm intelligence works. Take for example honeybees. Honeybees are so small with so little capabilities, but as a whole they make complex honeycomb structures. find the best place to build a hive, and many more. This type of intelligence, in which global behaviors emerge out of a group doing really simple actions, is termed as swarm intelligence, and that's what we need.
The solution: swarm. Imagine if we give this swarm intelligence to robot, we can have tens and thousands of robots going into an environment where humans can't, rescuing people, exploring new planets, etc. The full form of swarm is self-wafting and assembling robotic mechanism. Swarm is basically a mimic of biological swarm which exists in nature and has already found a solution to our problem. We all have seen how fish defend themselves from their predator by forming a swarm. They don't know what the predator is going to do next, nor do they communicate with each other continuously. Instead, they decide what to do next on the basis of what the nearby fishes are doing. Similarly, swarm also use its sensor to detect what the other member of the swarm are doing to calculate its own action.
But how is swarm different? Most of the swarm robots used today are firstly very costly, secondly they aren't really swarm at all. They use cameras placed into the ropes or drones to capture the view of the location and send the signals to the computer, which then sends command to the robots instructing them to do the task. Whereas in true swarm, there is no leader instructing millions of them to do the task. Thirdly, these bots can't really rescue people because they need to go deep into the cracks where cameras can't help them. Swarm is different though. It's different because it doesn't depend upon any camera or external computer to perform tasks. It doesn't even need to communicate with its swarm members. Its algorithm is made in such a way that it can work in any situation, no matter it's connected or not. Other than that, swarm is also very cheap. It costs only about 1200 rupees, that is $20, whereas the cheapest boat available today costs roughly a couple of $100, that is 1840 rupees. Be wondering how we cut the price so much? Well, essentially, we did it by replacing the LiDAR unit with our own sensor. It's a simple analog IS sensor fixed to a stiffer motor. To prevent the wires from curling, they are attached to 3 separate ball bearings. One for each wire. These ball bearings are also attached to the same shaft. As we know, the ball bearing's interior is free from the exterior part, so both can now move freely by attaching a support to the ball bearing's exterior part. We can stop it from moving and attach wires to the outer part of the ball bearings to draw out connection. As the cost of LiDAR units get reduced, so we can save a huge sum of money.
Swarm also promotes the development of systems that are able to cope well with the failure of one or more of their constituent robots. That is, loss of one robot wouldn't imply failure of the whole swarm. The adoption is made in such a condition that it would estimate in advance the resources needed to accomplish a task. It can help in allocating resources to manage an oil leak, can be used in dangerous tasks like demining, search and rescue, and cleaning up toxic spills.
So here, as you can see, a building has collapsed and an unknown amount of people are stuck beneath the debris of the building. Let us use swarm robots to solve this problem. An army of swarm is deployed at the situation and the task is simple: remove. So they will start to pull the debris away so the humans can start an evacuating process. As we know, there are infinite possibilities. So what if a single robot is unable to remove the debris? Then as you can see, another robot will be deployed at its location so that they can accomplish one single task as a team. Similarly, if these two robots aren't able to pull off the debris, then another robot will be deployed at that location. And robots will continue to be deployed until they have succeeded to pull off the debris. So, in a nutshell, we can conclude that swarm will establish communication with the nearest robot in order to accomplish a single task which it won't be able to do it alone. It is exactly like working in a group to solve an issue. The needs of search and rescue teams in many ways mirror the needs of military. They both operate in dangerous environments. They want to find the way to get the information while keeping their personnel out of harm, and they both are looking for people. Yes, S.W.A.R.M is the best substitute for people, and you know the answer why. Robots are being tested and deployed in a range of search and rescue functions. The number of local governments and private organizations buying and using drones for public safety and commercial reasons is likely to grow at a significant pace in coming years. An aerial view is useful in almost every disaster scenario, and drones are significantly easier, cheaper, and safer to deploy than helicopters. Drones not only have the capacity to map an area, but thanks to S.W.A.R.M Intelligence, they have the potential to outperform humans in finding objects such as sharks in the water, hikers lost in the woods, and debris in the shipwreck or plane wreck.
Now coming to the conclusion, in a longer time frame, the advancement in large walking robot could eventually be a significant game changer. Not only could this system help to find people, but would be available to physically carry them out from danger. The value of improved search and rescue technology can't just be thought about in terms of the number of lives it saves. While that is hugely important, the improvements are going to impact millions of people. Being available to quickly map and assess damage like they did in Nepal can help a community to rebuild and recover much faster.